for applying for our position, and we've had an opportunity to look over your resume and discuss it amongst ourselves, obviously. And so we thought for the next hour or so we have some questions, and we would just talk to you about those and hear what you have to say. And then at the end, if you have questions for us, you can have your turn, and we'll answer your questions, and we'll go from there. Sounds good? Thank you. Great. So I'll just start with, if you can let us know why you were interested in our position and what made you think that you might be a good fit for our school district.
Okay. For one, being a rural district, and I looked into Morley Stanwood. I guess my history could go a little ways back. I was a Pine River Buck, so actually played on Morley Stanwood. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, don't write that down.
That was not in your resume. We're gonna cut this short.
Right. At least I got my foot in the door.
I personally don't view it as a bad thing.
Okay. On with that though, I'm looking for new challenges and opportunities in a rural district, and I'm also looking to be part of the district, to grow with it, and be part of the community. That's why I chose Morley. Great. Thank you. You're welcome.
My turn. What have you learned about our district? And do you have some suggestions for creating a specific direction for our district based on what you know?
Again, as far as a public citizen knowing your district, besides myself, and here I go, my daughter was at Chip Hills.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I got
over here.
grandchildren over there. That's
Okay.
fine, that's fine, that's good.
Okay.
True, yeah.
Yeah, not too bad yet. Anyhow, so I've been on the campus before, and I've liked what I've seen. As I mentioned to Lynette, the people here, whether athletic events or the Quiz Bowl, are very supportive. They take pride in their athletics and academics, so I appreciate that as well. I feel like it's a very family-oriented community, that people watch out for each other. And hearing from colleagues also that students are really valued as far as making sure that they all learn. And because of that, you have the response to intervention process in your elementaries, and I'm very familiar with that. And as far as the district goes, probably two areas I would look at as far as goals, if I was to get the superintendency, would be the achievement level, making sure that we meet that 2014 100% proficient, which, right, I know you're shaking your head, but it's not going away. That's part. And so I think those are areas we really have to look at to make sure that we're setting those goals, achievable goals, to make that. And then on the budget end, making sure we have a balanced budget with that. And I would say, in 3 to 7 years after that, hopefully having a fund equity, and again, continuing a year's growth for all the students at Morley Stanwood. Okay.
What is your opinion of superintendent board communication? How do you plan to implement it with us?
Okay, first of all, communication has to be on a continuous basis, and it has to be a trust between us. You trust in me with the job duties that I have, and I look into you as telling me in the areas as far as what are your priorities, because you represent the community and staff. So again, with that, our open communication process, how would that be? That would be at least weekly emails. And I don't know how many people, that's my thought. I always got someone in there, that technology.
He's the only anti-technology.
And if not emails, I'm a great one. In the past district that I was in as a a superintendent, I made face-to-face at least once a week, if not twice a week. I knew where everybody worked, I knew their schedule, I knew, especially if they had students, what athletic events they were going to be at, where I could talk to them. I was well aware of where I could find them. If it's a situation where I feel that you need to know right away, I will definitely call you, and if I can't get a hold of you that way, I may end up trying to track you down. You know, there are incidences that, for one, I dislike gossip to the T, and I will try to track that down where it came from to make sure that we can get facts out there. But again, I look to the board for direction. You know what your priorities are right now. You represent the public, and I am the liaison between you and the community, along with the staff and students.
What is your history of curricular and instructional improvement, and how would you lead our district toward forward in those areas?
Okay, I have a proven record. Now, I can go way back to Moran, where I was superintendent, where we received the Golden Apple Award. Are you aware of that? Where you've made the most achievement for the state of Michigan in the area. And we actually did that in grades 5 through 8. And with that came funds, which was very nice enhancement. That, so the board was very pleased. And actually, we did that 2 years in a row. And it's called the Golden Apple Award, and again, it's for your achievement. And since we're Cadillac, again, I have proven success working with our team of teachers. It's not just me. I'm the leader, but we work together as a team. And right now, our MEP scores are at the 100% in some areas and high 90s in most areas. So our biggest fear was when we heard that you had to continue to improve to make AYP. Ours was, how can you improve if we're already at 100%? And they did pass a law saying now that they'll take 2 average years. So, for example, at the 4th grade level, we had 100% in math, and this year we're at 98%, so they'll do an average. So that's where we're at. With curriculum, I've been very involved in curriculum, and we do that also through our professional teams. We meet twice a month, and we look at curriculum. We do, first of all, we start with curriculum mapping. That's a process that we use. And I'm looking, you must have that here too, because you're shaking your heads. So we make sure, yes, no?
Yes.
Okay. So we make sure there that the standards, that we're following the core curriculum, and that the standards in our GLICs are all in line with the state of Michigan's assessments. We are aligned curriculum, and with that we also make sure we have vocabulary and our assessments at each grade level along with each subject area aligned. Implementation of that, well, the implementation where I look at it as an administrator and principals and superintendents by doing walkthroughs, and I don't know if you do those here at Morley Stanwood, but presently I do walkthroughs at least 3 times a week. The students don't even know when I'm in their rooms. Frequently the teachers will look up, I'm just there. I may be sitting next to a student, but that gives me those quick walkthrough, those 3 and 4 minute glimpses of what's going on in the classroom, what are the objectives. That's one area that I, as an administrator, I make sure they have in their lesson plans and on the whiteboard, or if they're doing overheads, that it's up there, that the students can see that, reflect on that throughout the lesson. What is the objective? So I know it's being taught. Then after, make sure implementation takes place through their observation. And I noticed in your teacher contract it says 30-minute observations, not less than 30 minutes. And that might be one area where I kind of go, 30 minutes isn't enough, but if that's what the district has done in the past and is okay with that, that's what we would have to do. But to make sure in that observation that it's stated what's the objective that was being taught at that time by the teacher, and how do we know that it was being taught successfully? What was the assessment that teacher was doing this follow-up. And then the evaluation process, looking at the CNA, the Comprehensive Needs Assessment, which is in math, ELA, and science. And we look at those assessments and see if our students are achieving at the growth they should be achieving at. And again, as an administrator, I meet 4 times a year with the staff. We take a day, we have rotating subs, and I meet with each teacher. I want to know what 5 students are their lowest and why. And they need to let me know also at that time what are the interventions that they're doing for those students to make sure that they're learning. So we do that 4 times a year, so we don't wait until the meets come out and go, oh my gosh, 32%, why? Or 58%, why? It's 4 times throughout the year we set dates to make that happen. We evaluate, and right now, the way the strands are, you can do an analysis right down to the strand, to the objective, to how that was asked to the student. Maybe it's just the way the words are, and practice that wording with the students to help them be successful. Sorry, lengthy, but yeah,
That's
curriculum is
good
very
answer.
detailed.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
How would you use the current and potential district financial resources to deal with the obvious financial crisis here in Michigan?
So, basically, what you have to look at whenever you design a budget is, what are the true revenues that you're going to be receiving? Never estimate when you go to do a budget. You also always get the true revenues. And I've even did one where I called down to the state and asked them, I want to hear it from you. What are we receiving per student? And then actually, what are our funds going to be coming in from the federal and state area? Okay, if it's less that our expenditures were the previous year, then what we're going to have to look at is what is the area that's going to have the least impact on our students' academics, students' education. That's the first area we're going to look at. We're also going to consider what are the priorities of the board, the teachers. What do you see as the #1 priority? And then as far as cuts go, looking at the non-instructional materials areas first to make that happen. Okay. And can I just add with that too, and this is one thing I could not figure out when I looked at your budget, and I apologize if it was there. In order to make those summer payments, do you do a tax collection in the summertime?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
I'm next.
Okay.
What do you think is your greatest administrative personnel strength, and how will it help Morley Stanwood school system improve?
My personal strength is I have experience in dealing with the school budget. Being a the superintendent of Lorraine Township School District, I did not have a business manager, so I'm well aware of the budget. And I've negotiated contracts for all areas of units. So that's definitely a strength. I know your contracts are up. And with that negotiations, I have actually been in negotiations for 19 years. So on both sides of the table, you might say. I believe that's a strength for Morley Stanwood, and also with the fact that I have proven success in academic areas, showing growth. I'll be honest, I'm not afraid as an administrator right now, if I'm to stay in the Cadillac, for us to meet 100% by the year 2014, because our teachers and our professional teams are there, but it's taken a lot of work to get there. So I think that's a strength as well. And one more area, I know you're doing the process of North Central accreditation, and I have experience in 3 different districts doing North Central accreditation, where I was the process of that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
On Monday morning, you come into the office and you have 3 complaints, one from a teacher, one from a parent, and one from a board member. How do you prioritize how to respond to which one first?
I'll go with the parent first, because they're going to be out there in the community, and I want them to be satisfied that their student, whether it's a safety issue, whether they feel that their child isn't meeting their academic needs, I don't know about that right away. Okay. And again, depending on what that issue is, I would talk with the teacher next, because I know he or she has to get back into their classroom and they want to be comfortable, they want to know what that answer is, and then I'll go with the board member. But again, it really depends on the situation. I'm going to look at them first, see what that situation is. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, back here.
Okay.
What is one strategy you would have for working with our district to make AYP at all levels?
Well, again, making that AYP, as I mentioned to you, at all levels, it has to be the curriculum form of that, from developing it, implementing it, and then make sure it's evaluated and followed through. And I gave you that process. Again, you have to set timelines of dealing with AYP. It's not, and when I say timelines, we set a goal, an achievable goal. You know, not, for example, if your score is 72%, that you're going to make 90% in 1 year. That is not an achievable goal. You have to work with the team, whoever it involves, whether it's at math, and starting all the way through from the elementary up through the high school. I'm not a firm believer that just because maybe your high school math scores are low, that it takes place just there. That math is the basic, and that's where we have to look at. But at the very beginning, from algebra, believe it or not, algebra starts as low as kindergarten, and it goes all the way through, learning those vocabulary terms. And so it's a regular process, but again, setting timelines, setting procedures to meet those immediate goal of, let's say, 3%. Let's say our goal is 3%, that's an achievable goal. We're gonna increase our math score by 3% for the year 2012. Okay, how are we going to do that? We've got to gather all that data, collect the data, see where the concern is. What are we missing? Is it the algebra area? Is it the geometry area? And from there, we're going to put procedures in place. And when I say procedures as far as professional teams, what are they going to be doing? Not just meeting, what are they doing during those professional time meetings? But during that time, we're going to set dates when this is going to take place and keep evaluating, going back to our main goal. Are we moving towards our main goal? Are we making progress? We don't wait till the end of the year for that to happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How can a superintendent make themselves more effective with the community involvement? And do you have any experiences of community involvement that you can share with us?
Yes. I do have experiences, but being involved is basically being visible out in the community, taking an interest in the community. Again, when a parent comes with a complaint, they're a community member, you honor that right away. You make sure that if Penny is the administrative assistant, she knows the schedule, but she can move it around to make sure that they're being noticed first or talked with, there's an interest there first with that parent. Again, when I say visible, being at all the athletic events, quizzball events, I get really involved when it comes to sports, so sometimes I have to step back and take a breath because I don't like to lose. I'll be honest.
That's good. That's good.
In any areas. But then, as far as being also part of a community person, I'm very involved. I'm on the advisory board for Baker College for early childhood. I don't have to do that, but I am part of that. I'm on a wellness committee at our hospital, but looking at all areas of our students as far as obesity, drug use, abuse, same with alcohol abuse. I go to many events from the Rotary to Lions to spaghetti dinners, just being involved. That's part of it, being involved, taking part. The carnivals, when I say carnivals, the family carnivals that we have, picnics that we have, the sports boosters events, tailgates. You're visible, but you should be if you're part of the community. You have to be there and you have to show an interest. And really part of that too is listening to our community members, what is their concern? And they might have a complaint that has no basis for support, so you can let them know what the true story is, okay? So,
Do you have any experience working with grants? How can a district our size maximize its grant potential?
Just received a grant today at Plate. Before I got here, stopped and picked it up, that was a nice little check. Anyhow, yes, I do have experience writing grants. That one, I guess you can say it was a decent sized grant. It was in the thousands that we received. I just wrote, and this came up on me really fast. The superintendent found out that our Safe and Drug-Free Schools grant was due last Friday, and I got it Wednesday, and wrote it and handed it in to him Thursday night at 9:42, and sent it in, and it was accepted. And that was for a large amount of money as well. I'm helping the PTO right now write a grant for a playground, and that comes through a McDonald's. And I wrote one in the previous district when I was in Moran Township School District, and that grant was for about $57,000 for playground equipment. I've always been very involved in grants. I wrote a grant also from Moran Township School District that replaced all of our furnaces, the boilers, air conditioners, and put a new roof on the whole entire school. So it just, a lot has to do when you're writing grants, is how you word things and involving lots. Companies, corporations like to give money where they're influencing many, many students or people. It can't be just a small amount. The larger the better. So I've had lots of experience. And I write our GSRP grant every year, our 4-year-old program grant every year. And right now we have 163 students, so our grant's $567,000, and I don't know, 42 cents, something like that, for 163 kids. So I write that every year. And when I started 7 years ago, we had 1 GSRP program or 4-year-old program, and now we have 10. So, yeah, I have lots of experience writing grants.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
What are your long-term and short-term personal and professional goals?
Well, my short-term professional goal, and I word that with the idea that if I was the superintendent here, that would be part of my professional goal, would be to have a balanced budget and for our students to reach 100% proficiency by the year 2014. That would be the short term. The long-term goal, as I mentioned before, would be having a fund equity for our district and not have to worry about funds. And also with that, to continue the year's growth. Very personally for myself, keeping updated as far as attending either conferences or classes in the budget area and in the academic areas as well for achievement for our students. Our core curriculum at the high school level is changing, and I just really want to be made aware of what those strands are and standards and how they're going to fit their kids. So that's one area for myself where I feel like I could use some more professional development at the high school level.
Do you have any experience in collaborative efforts with other local districts or ISDs?
Yes, we collaborate with our GSRP grant with Wexford Misaki ISD. So we have all of those districts together with that grant that we write in. We meet on a regular basis. Collaboration in the areas, I guess I need more specifics. Are you talking like in the areas of sharing academic programs or?
Maybe something like the state's going for today, different things.
Non-instructional?
Non-instructional services.
Sure.
we have many services through our Wexford Misaki ISD. And as far as with other districts, with your OTs and your PTs and your speech, that all comes from our ISD. I mean, as far as us doing anything else beyond that, I would say no, except we do a lot of professional teams with those other constituent districts of the Wexford Misaki ISD. A lot of sharing. Reed City isn't even one of ours. Anyway, I think he's gonna say one of yours. Anyhow, Reed City, thought about that. Reed City had emailed me and called me and asked for our kindergarten screener that we use, that we've developed over the years, because word's out that that's been very successful. So we've shared that not only with Reed City, but with McBain and Manton and Pine River as well, the procedure that we use. So that was an area that I developed it when I came to Cadillac, because we didn't have any kind of screener for our kindergarten. So that was developed.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mary, in an era of increased accountability in all areas, how would you plan to implement accountability of our district with teachers, administrators, bus drivers, parapros?
Making sure that they fulfill their job duties, and again, that, as I tell the present staff that I have now, I don't have 100 eyes. I expect you to be my eyes as well. But again, with our academic achievement, we're going to see what is being taught by the results of our assessments. So that's a good indication right there. But from that also tells me that if achievement isn't being made, then that also, who is supposed to be, besides the teacher, who is supposed to be following through? So the principals, are they doing their jobs? Are they doing their evaluations the way they're supposed to be doing them? And I'll be honest, I like to read evaluations to make sure I know what's going on in each area. From custodians and parapros, again, are they doing jobs? Am I hearing complaints from the community that they're not following through and doing their jobs correctly? Are our bus drivers causing unsafe environment for our kids while they're being transported? A lot has to do with the community and the board. And I follow through. You can talk with anybody that's worked with me. I don't want to say that I've fired people, but I've asked people in all areas that deals with employment at the schools to resign because they have not been doing their job. So we do keep a close eye on it. I feel that if they're not doing their job, then it's taxpayers' money is being wasted. And the staff knows today that there are 10 people out there to take your job within a matter of a day. So you better be doing your job. I talk to people. The first time, and again, it has to do with your contract, where you're at, but the first time I will go up to them and say, Mary, I need to talk with you in my office. I have a concern. I won't do it out in the public, but I will ask him to come into my office. And I will say, this is what's going on. You're not showing up on time. You've been 10 minutes late. You've been as much as 20 minutes late. We don't know where you are. You're supposed to be fulfilling this job duty. Why aren't you? And I don't take, oh, my alarm wasn't set. You're an adult. You have a job to do. It needs to be fulfilled. So I have asked employees all the way through the school system in different areas to please resign. I've offered one teacher that moaned and complained at every staff meeting and just had a tendency to be negative all the time. I pulled her in and I asked her, why are you doing this? She was very unhappy with the district. She just wanted to be out of there. She had gone through a divorce. She didn't want to see her husband throughout the day, blah, blah, blah. And I just said, where do you want to be? Florida. Good. Okay. I called up the director of education for Florida and told her there were many jobs down there. And lo and behold, she was gone. She wanted to go, and I helped her get there. Not that that's gonna happen with everyone, but again, evaluations, there's a purpose for evaluations. And those evaluations are to see, are people doing their jobs? You know, and that's why they need to be true and reflective, not just a checklist. I don't like checklists. I'm not good with checklists. She'll tell you today too. You could call her Nancy. But I helped her.
She's in warm Florida. where
She's
it's
more in
snowing
warm
this weekend.
Florida, and she's much more happier. Yes, she is.
She's warmer.
Warmer and not seeing her spouse.
I've got the next question. What are some of your strategies when dealing with contract negotiations?
When, again, how much money do we have allocated that can be spent with that contract negotiation? I'm very honest and upfront with the employees. They need to know this is how much we have, okay? Maybe they can't, there's not enough there to get a raise, there's not enough there, unless there's insurance, maybe there's a different way to approach the insurance, what the cost is right now. Is there something that could cover the same, only a little bit less for the cost of the districts? We look at all areas, but with negotiations, I am very upfront, but I can separate people from the issue. I don't shed tears. I mean, this is our focus. We have this much money. This is where we're going to go with it. And I work with them collaboratively. I don't get angry. I keep a very calm voice, but I can separate personnel from the issue.
With everything that's going on in Michigan these days with finances, how would you ensure that any budget cuts that are made would have the least impact on our classrooms? I mean, some ideas that you would have as far as keeping things away from the student in the classroom. Everybody's making cuts.
Right, again, we'd have to look at your past budget, but we also are going to have to look at the least impact on the students. However, our students have to achieve. Do you presently have the resources right now for that to happen? So it may be cutting in other areas in order for that to happen. We may be able to get grants to support those resources. That's another area. Again, corporations are pretty friendly for giving out the money if they're going to see results. And I look at many, many areas, from getting technology to getting textbooks for our students. So it's the resources. What are the other areas? Again, I'll have to go back to the priorities of the district and the vision. We have to keep that vision. We have to educate kids. That's the bottom line. So what does it take to make our students successful? There's no hidden agendas there. And we're going to look at non-instructional areas. What areas can we save? And again, in collaboration with the ISD, are there some areas that they could be serving us? And maybe that's in transportation. And I don't know that, what's happening here with your transportation, but maybe that's an area where our ISD could step in and help us with that, or collaborate with us and pick up some of the students. That's a big cost for a rural district. I do know that transportation is. So, and I don't know as far as contractual wise, again with your units, as far as with cooks and bus drivers and custodians. So before I can say anything, I'd have to look to see what exactly entails that.
Thank you. Somebody have anything they'd like to start with?
Moran. How big a school is that?
Tiny,
How many students?
there were 148 students.
So that's classified as a class D?
D, Class D student. Class D, and actually I learned when I went up there, there's schools a lot smaller than that, which you were from the Upper Peninsula, you learned that too? Yeah.
And that, according to this, is right at that bridge?
Actually, yes, and I said it could only happen in the UP, Kurt. Actually, St. Ignace High School sat in Moran Township School District. We were 5 miles going out of St. Ignace to the west.
Okay.
And we sat right on Lake Michigan shoreline, Moran Township School District does. So when you look out the office, you see big freighters going by.
Nice.
Yes, very nice. But it is very small, but very, very community oriented. Just, I probably couldn't stress that enough. Whether it was a student that needed something, there was always someone there for them. Whether it be tennis shoes or a ride home, or they were always there, very committed. And very successful academically,
And that was K through 12?
K through 8. Actually, our high school kids went to St. Ignace. Mhm.
That would be like
And
a
then-
Jackson.
Right, and we collaborated with St. Ignace
Okay.
with our sports. And sports and music, also they provided for us. And I was the only administrator. I didn't have anybody under me. I was it.
Wore all the hats.
I wore all the hats. Actually, yes.
I guess I'm curious, what do you think would be one of the biggest challenges? Obviously, you know, being a principal, you're administering staff, overseeing curriculum, budgets, and so on, but moving up to a superintendent position, what are you thinking would be the biggest challenges making that transition? As far as responsibility or?
I'm already aware, and again, and I reflect back on Moran Township School District. Of course, it was not near this big, but it's a superintendency is truly a 24-hour position. And we had a bond at that time, and we added on classrooms. So, and we didn't have any subcontractors, or I was it. So very involved. I realized the amount of time that's devoted to be a superintendent. Probably the area that I feel that I would hope that the principal and the high school level could help me out would be, again, focusing on the curriculum on the new core areas. I'm very familiar with the past, but the new core areas. Okay.
Great. Anyone else have questions?
Is your school, do they have the trimester system in place up there?
Yes, we do. We do.
What's your opinion of the trimesters? I'm just curious.
It seems to be working in Cadillac. It's very successful, actually. We've seen big improvement in our academic achievements because of the tri-semesters.
Even with limited staff, as the staff numbers decrease, do you feel that has a bearing on your thinking as far as the?
No, well, and I don't, and again, this would be an area I'd have to research down here, but we have trimesters, but it's 5 hours. I don't know, do you have 5 hours, 72 minutes? That,
Yeah, we have a fourth block 16, so yeah.
okay. 72 minutes too. So, it's working very successfully. And we've cut staff as well. Yeah, yes.
It's went from about 100 roughly down to roughly 80 here in 6 years that I've been here.
Your teachers?
Yes.
I think where you've lost about 187 students over the last 5 years.
And that might justify some of those positions, but most certainly not all of them.
No.
What would you expect from your board members? What would be your expectations?
Honesty, to let me know what kind of job am I doing as a superintendent, and do I need to be doing something differently? Is there an area that, again, that I need to improve? But I expect you to be representing the community and along with our staff. And again, coming with feedback, and honest feedback. Again, that's why I believe that trust is so important, and that constant communication. Now, I will meet with you once a week and that's it. Constant communication.
I'm kind of curious about the 4-year-old program, and this is kind of an off-the-wall comment, but we restructured our elementaries just this past year, so we have and we brought our preschool program back into the district, which we did not have for a while. So we have pre-K, K, and 1 in one building. And it sounds like you're a big advocate of pre-K, 4-year-old programs.
Yes, very much so. We're very much, it's proven success. And again, that has to go with, at our kindergarten, if you're aware of the kindergarten curriculum at all, by January, your kindergarten students are supposed to be reading. When they come into kindergarten, they are supposed to know their ABCs, uppercase, lowercase. We're really getting low level. Where's my high school teachers? But this is good. It really is. I mean, but they're getting the basis. So when they come into kindergarten, they're ready. They know the sounds of those letters, and they're ready to read. So that preschool is very important. And it not only that, but social skills, you know, being able to listen, that it doesn't take, you know, a third of the year on the kindergarten teachers, and truthfully, you know, just those listening skills and being able to sit for 5 minutes and not bother the person next to them, keeping their hands to themselves. I mean, just in all aspects. And physically too, it's been proven that with the physical activity that they have for the right and left brain, how that motivates and gets the students going in their balance, everything. It's proven very successful.
That's great.
Yes, very, very much so.
Thanks. You're welcome.